Hey guys, A.V. Songbird here, and welcome back to A.V. Songbird Reviews The Walking Dead. Now, like I told you guys before, I'm doing this by request because I have so many friends that are fans of the show, and people are telling me they want my point of view on it. One, because I'm a writer, two, because I'm a fan of the show, and three, I'm very immersive when it comes to books and movies and games and stuff. I feel like I'm in it. I like to imagine myself in it as far as getting involved with it and trying to pick the characters apart and find out what makes them tick and storylines and stuff. So here I am with season 1, episode 3, and you guys are gonna laugh. I always try to be honest with you guys and forthright in the way that I review things, the way I do things. So I'm still trying to find my footing for how I do these reviews because I don't want to bore you guys. I want to be honest about the episodes and stuff, and I'm trying to find out how I want to do it. For example, I've got my outline in my terrible handwriting written down so I keep on point. I even almost went and watched other people's reviews, but I didn't want my reviews to be colored by other people's. If you didn't want to see mine, you'd be watching theirs. On channels much bigger than this little one. But, I'm just gonna go off the cuff, and I want to be honest with you guys, so hopefully you guys will enjoy this one. I've honestly considered doing these as live streams. I wouldn't show the video on my channel, as far as of the video itself, the episode itself, and I wouldn't play the audio. I would put my headphones on so only I would hear the show and see the show, but it would be playing and I'd be talking about it as it's playing so that those of you that watch the live stream with me could put it on your TV and then comment back. So it's like we're all watching it together and we can comment back and forth. So it's more interactive that way. You can talk about your opinions while I talk about mine. I wanted to know if you guys would honestly be more interested in that. So that's another possibility that I've kicked around, rather than me talking about what happens in the episode. Also, I've done episode 1 and 2 already, and I did kind of oops a little bit. I talk about the episodes in depth. Okay, hear me out. In each of these, I talk about the episode in depth. So obviously, I'm going to give away spoilers. I'm going to talk about what happens. I'm going to talk about the characters and the events in the episode. So obviously, if you haven't seen the episode, don't watch the review. That being said, I am trying to be more conscientious about the fact that I don't want to give away what happens in future episodes in the episodes that we are on. I'm trying to talk only about what's in that episode and the episodes before. Because right now, they are in the middle of season 6, and the last episode was on a couple of days ago. No, I'm not talking about it because spoilers. But, oh my god, it's in the middle of season 6, and I've seen every single episode. I've watched some episodes so many times I lost count, I can almost quote some of them. So it's real hard for me to not talk about future episodes, but I don't want to ruin it for those of you that aren't caught up. So to give you a chance to get caught up, because this show is awesome, I'm not doing this as a way to try to, crib sheet you through the show. But on episode 3, Tell It to the Frogs, I really like this episode for a couple of reasons. We start out with poor Merle on the roof. And he's delirious. He's got sunstroke 9 ways from hell. Poor Merle's up on that roof and he's delirious and he's picturing himself, I swear, in a bar somewhere with all his buddies. And he's telling us this story about how he punched the 5 front teeth out of this guy's face while he was in the military and made the guy swallow his teeth and ended up in the stockade for 16 months for fighting. And whether you love Merle, whether you hate Merle, whatever your opinions are, he kicked the shit out of pretty much everyone on that roof, ended up handcuffed to a roof with good reason. He threatened people with a gun, and he kicked the shit out of everyone. He's, a druggie, and he is whatever you want to say about Merle. There's something about him I liked. And no, I'm not masochistic. No, I'm not. I'm just saying there's something about him that I liked, and I don't know to this day what it was. Here 6 years later, there was something about Merle I liked, and I don't know what it was. Him being military and him talking the way he does and his attitude. There was something about Merle I liked. I don't know why. I can't put my finger on it, but there was something I liked. So he's up on the roof and we find out, we flash back to Rick and he's on the road and he's getting ready to go back to camp. Well, not back to camp, but for the rest of them, it's back to camp. And Morales tells him, the only one that's going to miss Merle is his brother. And we're going, oh shit, there's another one? And Glenn goes hauling ass by in his chick car, and they go back to camp. Well, it flashes back, and there's Lori sitting there, and she's cutting Carl's hair, and Shane's across from her, and he's cleaning his guns, and they're having a conversation. Which, middle of the Walkeropolis, it's the end of the world, and they're sitting, chilling out. Shane's cleaning his guns like they're camping. She's cutting Carl's hair. And all of a sudden, it's like, yeah, we're just camping, nothing's happened, the world hasn't ended. And I like that for the fact that it felt like a family sitting around the fire, just like the old days. You could almost forget that the world had ended, right? And they talk about catching frogs. Well, all of a sudden, they hear, woo, woo, woo. And Glenn comes up in the car. Well, Shane tells him to pop the hood, and Jim in his mechanic's overalls, so he's got to be a mechanic. He pulls the fuse to stop the alarm from going off, which, logic, he's the only one that thought to go after the fuse. Well, the cube van pulls up and everyone gets out, and like I said, have seen every episode of this show. I love this show. I own it all on Blu-ray. I didn't steal it. I own it all on Blu-ray. But I've watched every episode of this show, and to this day, one of my all-time favorite scenes in this show out of 6 seasons is the scene where Rick comes walking up from the cube van, and there's Lori and Carl, and Rick looks up and he sees his family, and the Grimes family reunion there. Stop it, Annie. At the camp that day, and the look on Rick's face when he sees Carl, and Carl screaming at him, and them running together, and Lori's shock, and just the gamut of emotions that Lori goes through, from being in shock to seeing her husband to how pissed off she looks at Shane, so there's going to be issues there. I love that scene. All these years later, no matter how many times I've watched that episode, every time I see that reunion scene, it hits me right here. That lump in your throat. I love that scene. But they all get reunited and everything. And then that night, another one of my favorite scenes out of all 6 seasons, it's the core group is sitting there around the fire, and Rick's getting them up to speed on what happened to him. And again, it feels for a moment like the end of the world hasn't hit. It's just a group of family and friends just gathered around the campfire. They could be, toasting s'mores, damn it. They're just gathered around the fire, and for a moment the world hasn't ended. You could almost picture yourself sitting there just listening to people shoot the shit, just sharing stories and just relaxing around the fire under the stars. And then, we meet Ed and Carol, because Ed's being an asshole. And I am going to say it, whether you like Carol, whether you hate Carol, whether you like or hate Sophia, whether you like or hate Shane, whether you hate Ed or hate Ed, seriously, there's no liking Ed. There's nothing about him that's likable from the beginning. Throughout the course of your life, there's going to be people that you love, there's going to be people that you hate, and then there's people that you hate that you can't explain whether you like or hate them. You just, from the goal, hate them. And there was something about Ed immediately that I hated, whether it was the way he acted like he was better than everyone else in that moment at the fire, or, the way he glared at Carol like it was her fault that he got yelled at for putting them possibly in jeopardy at that moment. I couldn't stand Ed from the beginning, and I've known people like him partly, so it's like, that might be the reason, but from the beginning, I intensely disliked Ed. That's the nicest way and the cleanest way I could put it. But, Shane deals with Ed nicely. Much nicer than I probably would have, but I don't put up with guys that treat women like that. I don't think anyone should treat other people like that. But Shane comes back to the group, Dale, I love Dale. He's like the daddy of the group. So Dale says, have you given any thought to Daryl Dixon? About Merle being, remember Merle? Handcuffed on the roof. So he goes, have you given any thought to Daryl Dixon? And they start arguing about, yay, who's going to get to break the news to Daryl when he comes back from his hunt, which, oh shit, he can hunt, and we have to tell him that we handcuffed his brother to the roof. So they're arguing, Ironically, it's not about who pulled the short straw. They're not arguing about, you tell him, no, you tell him, no, you tell him. They're arguing about, no, I'll tell him, and you're gone. If he's anything like Merle 2.0, you're not going to want to tell him, right? Let's hope that he's the more logical one of the group. We have high hopes, right? So they're arguing over it. So they try to figure out, is T-Dogg going to tell him? Is Shane, Rick going to tell him? because T-Dogg tells him, hey, I chained the door shut. By the way, I forgot to tell you guys I chained the door shut, so he very well may be alive on the roof. Well, you see the look on Rick's face, and I love the fact in those first 3 episodes, you get such a feel for Rick's character. Him being a lawman, being a family man, being a man that doesn't blink in this stage of a crisis. He's the guy that takes point and lets everyone else fall in line behind him and hide. You get the feeling that he's got this strong moral center, and it's unshakable. You get this feeling that he's a man of conviction. He's a man of honor. Just in those first 3 episodes, you get that feeling. You can tell from the minute T-Dogg mentions, Merle's alive, we left him on that roof. No walkers can get to him because it's too narrow. The stairwell's too narrow. You could see the look of disgust on his face at the fact that they left Merle behind, and he's more than likely alive, and he's been up there in the sun all day in freaking Atlanta in the early stages of summer, right? So it's riding on him. And he's the type of guy that something like that would eat away at him. So you get that feeling about Rick. Like I said, he's a very personable guy, and I loved his character from the beginning because he was very personable and very real. But we flash over, and Rick goes into his tent, and he tells Carl goodnight, which, I'm a stepmom, man. I go tell my stepsons goodnight, But he's gets in bed and talks to Lori, and she's wearing his wedding ring around her neck. He tells her, I found you because the photo albums were gone. I knew you were alive, and she smiles, and they look through it. Well, he finds out she wore his wedding ring around her neck, and he kind of grins, and he said, I wondered where that went, and she asks him, well, do you want it back? And she wasn't just asking him if he wanted his ring back. I loved that because it was so symbolic. It's not just a ring. Do you want to be my husband? Do you want us back? Do you want this back? And he smiles and says, of course. And she's telling him, I'm sorry for all the bad times. I would take it all back. It was screwed. And yeah, maybe this is partially guilt because she was doing his best friend behind his back, But maybe she really was sorry for the way things went. And Rick says, stop it. We've been given a second chance. A lot of people didn't get that. And, they reconcile, and he puts his ring on. The thing is, how many of us fight with our loved ones and, just take for granted that we're going to have tomorrow to fight about it all over again, about stupid little shit, and it's stuff that it takes something major happening, not like the end of the world's still here. It can't end till Walking Dead's over because we got to know what happens. I couldn't handle that kind of not knowing. But it's one of those, we always expect tomorrow to be here, which is another running theme in the show that I love. They always say in the show, I thought I had more time. I thought I had more time. I took for granted that I had more time, that you would always be there. It would always be there. And I love that running theme in the first season. Time. Throughout the first season, go back and look. It's a running theme, and they're always showing clocks, But how many people wait until something major in their life happens, to reconcile, to get over this stupid little shit and to make amends and to move on? To find out what's important to them. How many of us are caught up in this stupid little shit and take big things happening in our lives to take the good things and realize how blessed we are? So they're getting a second chance, and it looks like they're both willing to actually give it an honest to goodness go this time. And they smooch, and then they smooch. I'm not going into detail because I don't do that. I would turn 40 Shades of Purple if I tried to go into detail, and I'd have to drop into my lower register and call this AV Songbird After Dark. But it fades out, and poor Shane, man, it fades out, and all of a sudden, the light goes out in the tent, and Lori and Rick are reconciling, and it fades away, and we see Shane. And I watched this with my headphones on, and you guys would laugh. You hear way much more when you watch this with headphones in, like the cicadas that never go away, that make it feel hot to watch it. With the heat in the air and yeah. But you hear the thunder and the light. You hear the thunder and you see the lightning and the rain's coming in, and you see poor Shane sitting up on top of Dale's RV under his little piddly ass umbrella and his little sheriff hat, and you're going, poor Shane's out in the cold, man. But you can't feel bad for him because Shane was diddling Rick's wife on the side, man. But yeah, The lights go out and Rick and Lori reconcile. And then all of a sudden it fades out, it fades in. We're to the next morning and you hear everyone outside talking. Morning's in mid-swing. Rick gets up, goes out. Carol's washing his clothes. He gets reacquainted with Lori. You know, waking up in the morning and... Say what you will. What would you miss? Honestly, I would miss coffee. You know, when I go without coffee, I get the worst caffeine migraines. So just the thought of no coffee would haunt me. I'd have to find beans, grind them myself, and make my damn coffee. That's one thing I couldn't do without. You know, everything else, yeah, I'll do without. I'll eat bugs if I have to, but I gotta have my coffee. But he goes to talk to Lori while she's hanging up clothes. And I laugh because I like doing the laundry out on the line. It smells better. But yeah, I'm caveman style. I love doing the laundry that way. But he goes and talks to Lori, and she sees the look on his face. Being his wife, you know those looks. So she goes, oh God, what? And he goes, I was thinking about that man, the one we left behind. She goes, you're not serious. And she goes, are you telling or asking? And he goes, asking. And she thinks it's a dumb idea, and I can hear him in my head right now. I'm not crazy. But all of us, Shane comes in from bringing water down and tells everyone boil it before use, which, good idea. You don't want bacteria killing you before the walkers do. You want to be healthy when the walkers eat you, right? But, all of a sudden you hear the kids scream and they come running in and the group goes running out into the woods and finds out that a walker came up on them. And they take the walker out and the walker's eating a deer, poor Bambi. Makes me wonder what venison would taste like. I've never had it. I was always curious. I've never had it. I've eaten a lot of weird things, but not venison. Don't ask. You're safer not knowing. But all of a sudden we hear a out in the trees, and everybody's like, I'm going to kill it. And everyone kind of turns point to the woods, and all of a sudden this guy with a crossbow comes stumbling out of the trees. Guess who we just met? But he comes walking out, and he goes, son of a bitch, that's my deer. You know, and we meet him, and we're like, who the hell are you? Where the hell did you come from? Well, he shoots the walker because the head's on the floor, and he immediately starts shit with Dale, and I'm going, oh God, no. And he turns around, and he walks off, stalks back to camp. Well, he starts yelling for Merle. And Rick's going, because I know he got a feeling this was kind of the guy that was out hunting, the only person that came back from the woods, right? It's got to be who I'm looking for. He's already getting Merle vibes, right? So Shane goes after him and goes, hey, Daryl, we got to talk. It's about Merle. There was a problem in Atlanta, and Daryl goes, he did? So Rick meets Daryl. Rick and Daryl fight. Shane and Rick and Daryl fight. Well, then they talk, and it's decided that, hey, they're going to go back to Atlanta to get him, and Rick uses the cover, it's for the guns, but I'm going back for your brother. Well, they all decide who's going there. But that freaking meeting, I had to laugh at the... Daryl thinks he's big and bad. I'm not going to say he's not. Daryl is big and bad. But the thing is, just his attitude was so Merle 2.0 from the start. And they take him down, and he immediately... God, what was it he said? Chokehold's illegal. Yeah, and I loved what Shane said. He goes, chokehold's illegal. And Shane goes, yeah, you can file a complaint. And all these years later, I still, yeah, you can see the hole in my hand. But all these years later, I laugh at that part because middle of a fight, you're fighting with this dude. You just pulled a knife on him. And you're bitching about the chokehold. Chokehold's illegal. Yeah, you can file a complaint. I love the way Shane kind of brushed him off like it was nothing, you know, and the way he and Rick were so coordinated to take this guy who thought he was a badass down, right? Shane should have played football. But, you know, they find out Rick wants to go back after Merle, and then we know Daryl does, and then they sign Glenn up. Rick drags his ass into it because he knows the area better than anyone because he was the pizza boy, remember? Who would know the streets better than the pizza boy? But, come to find out, T-Dogg wants to volunteer to go. So they all get their stuff together, and they all take off to go after Merle, which is gonna be great, right? So they take off after Merle, and the group stays there. The women go down to do the laundry. And I'm trying to make sure that I stay up to speed, because the last thing I want is to run out. Hey, I'm ahead. We come to find out the radiator hose on the RV's shot. So Jim comes up to Dale, and they talk to Rick about the fact that when they get back, they want to take the radiator. I can frickin' see English. Hose from the cube van to replace the shot hose in the RV when they get back. So they need the cube van. But Shane and Rick talk before he leaves. They take off, and the women head down to do laundry. Well, we flash over from Lori comforting Carl in the tent to the guys in the cube van driving to Atlanta, and T-Dogg and Daryl are sitting in the back, and Daryl's pissed. Which you have to figure, if you come back from hunting for the group, and you hear that said group that you spend all that time out in the woods hunting for, left your brother, or your sister, or your significant other in the city to fend for themselves, wouldn't you be pissed? Whoever they were? You know? But he looks at T-Dogg and he tells him he better be okay. It's my only word on the matter. Well, I'm trying to stay organized, you guys. The guys decide that because of the geography, they'll go after Merle first, then the guns, because Merle's closer. And then we flash back and Shane's hunting for frogs with Carl, which I love that scene. Because with Carl being a kid after the world fell and after everything went to hell, he wouldn't get to grow up like normal kids would now, you know, taking for granted that you could walk down the street and be safe. He wouldn't be able to go to school and get to hang around normal kids his own age and do the stupid little kid shit that, you know, we all did, skinning their knees and doing the normal stuff. So, yeah, the women were over there bitching about how, you know, Jackie said, I'm beginning to question the division of labor here. That was exactly what she said. I had to remember. But Shane's playing with Carl in the water, and he's really screwing around just to get Carl's mind off it. I liked that moment because he gets so few moments, you know, that you think of to be a normal kid up to this point. You figure they've been in camp for a month at this point. A month of him being up at this camp with them worried about where their food's going to come from and everything. I mean, kids take it for granted. You know, my kids go into the fridge every day. Hey, I want to eat this. Hey, I want to eat that. And they waste whatever or throw whatever away. They don't think about it. You know, so the fact that they were taking the time out to give them that moment together, even with the women bitching about it, I thought it was cute. And it was a light moment to lighten the mood. I loved it. But we go back and everyone with Rick's group is looking for Merle. They're going all over trying to find Merle. And then we flash back and forth. Well, let me see. We flash back to the women doing laundry after Shane's doing the frog thing with Carl. We flash back and the women are doing laundry and they're sitting there and they're talking about what they'd miss. And there's people that love or hate what Andrea said. There's, you know, they're talking about what they miss. She misses her sat nav, her Benz. You know, her sister misses her computer and texting. Jackie misses her coffee maker. Carol misses her Maytag. I gotta hand it to Andrea. Because she's hot-blooded and she's independent, she's strong-minded. Yeah, whether you love Andrea, whether you hate her from the beginning, she said she missed her vibrator. And there's women that say, oh my God, loose morals, or oh, you shouldn't miss that, or oh, you whore, or whatever they're saying. You know what? Sex is awesome. And no, I'm not going to go into detail. But it's a normal human thing, man. Sex is a normal human need. So you could call her whatever you want to. You would miss that. You know? And I laugh. No, don't call me a whore or whatever. I just, you know, people were trying to run her out on a rail for saying that. And I'm going, believe it or not, that would be a thing that women miss. You know, I mean, me personally, I would miss coffee. And honestly, I would really, really miss hot showers. Even with as hot as it gets, I'm a huge fan. You know, when you go out and you get dirty and you work all day and everything, nothing feels better than coming home and having that nice hot shower and getting those clean sheets and sliding into bed at the end of the day and you're exhausted and you got the clean sheets and you're clean, you know? Nothing beats that feeling other than that coffee in the morning, man. So what would you guys miss, honestly? And I know there's going to be weird things out there, but honestly, what would you guys miss? And yeah, I know what Andrea missed isn't something everyone would miss, but sex is a normal thing. Don't act like she's dirty just because she was willing to admit that she'd miss it. But I loved that moment. I love the fact that, you know, the women are just chilling out next to the pond and they're talking and they're laughing and they're having a good time. It was like with Carl and Shane doing the frog hunt thing, and Shane and Lori and Carl sitting at the fire, and the whole group sitting at the fire the night before. It's those small human moments. And people are going, oh, it's slow, oh, it's just to fill time. No, it's those moments that show that, yeah, with everything going on, they're still human. They're still, they're still human. They can still have those little moments. The problem is, with the world going to hell and everything, it's sad to think that with some of us, it would take everything going to hell for us to really appreciate those really human moments. I mean, no matter how bad things get here, there was a point, things were kind of going real bad and things were tight and everything. And I stood over my stove with my stepsons and with my husband, and we were making s'mores over the stove, and we were just laughing, all of us eating s'mores standing in the kitchen. And that's one of the little moments I loved in my life. Life is all about those little moments and holding on to them and treasuring them when the shit hits the fan. So, I love the fact that in this show, they show those little moments, those human moments, even with all the walkers in the background and everything going on. So I love moments like that through the show. It's one of the things I do like. But, what was it? Oh, one thing that did ruin that moment for me with the women being human. Ed hears Carol laugh because Andrea admitted to missing her vibrator. Yes, I know what they are. Well, Carol's sitting there and she goes, me too. Well, all the women start laughing because Carol admitted it. And unlike Andrea, because Andrea, as far as we know, we haven't seen her with anybody. So we don't know if Andrea has a buddy or a husband or a whatever. But Carol goes, me too. I miss mine. Well, Carol's got a husband. So the women start cracking up. Well, Carol's got her husband, but she's missing her toy. So everyone starts cracking up. I started cracking up. I'm sitting there going, oh my God. Well, I immediately liked Carol in that moment because I'm going, she was quiet about it, but at least she admitted it. Well, Ed hears all the women laughing and he knows it's at Carol. Well, he comes walking up with this look on his face like a pissed off pit bull that someone crapped in his dinner. I mean, he looks like a pit bull. If you look at his face when he's all... He looks like the pit bull from the cartoons where he's all pissed off at everything. His whole world just sucks. So no one else gets to be happy because he's not happy. So he comes over and he's all pissed off and he goes, what's so funny? And he totally shits on their parade. And it pissed me off because it's one of those, you need to go let them have their parade. Go sit over there and be surly over there and let something eat you. Let them have their moment. Let them laugh. Let them forget that the world sucks for a minute, asshole. But he walks over and Andrea diffuses it and says, we're just swapping like war stories, right? And he goes, well, you should focus on your work. This ain't no comedy club. And whether you agree with how Ed treats his wife or not, I can't help it. Okay. I come from a family of very strong-willed women. Very independent-willed women. All my family will agree with this. Anyone who knows me, very strong, independent-willed women, right? I don't think anyone should treat anyone like they're lesser than themselves. I think everyone's equal eye to eye. Whatever your status in life, whatever your job in life, whatever your financial status in life, whether you're a queen, whether you're a pauper, whether you're a whatever, I believe everyone's on equal level. At the end of our lives, we're all buried in the same 6-foot hole. We're all level. So when someone treats someone else like they're lesser than themselves, it immediately pisses me off. And to have him treating everyone else like they're lesser and talking to Carol like, well, you belong to me and you shouldn't be laughing. You should just be doing whatever. Not gonna happen. And I probably would have reacted like Andrea. It's like, oh, screw you. It pissed me off that, well, I'm unhappy in the world. Friggin' sucks, so you can't be happy either. That whole moment. So, what was it? Lori comes down to get Carl from Shane because she's pissed off at Shane about the whole Rick thing. And come to find out, because she and Shane get in a fight after Carl leaves, well, come to find out, Shane told her that Rick was dead. So, it's one of those, okay. So Lori thought Rick was dead. Is that why she was with Shane? Were they together before? She wouldn't have been as pissed, would she? But it's one of those, I'm still wondering at this point, Were they together before the world fell? Was that part of the problem with Rick and Lori to begin with? But either way, she's pissed off because Shane told her her husband was dead. Which, if he'd told me my husband was dead, I would have been pissed too. So she tells him to stay away from her family, which I understand it. Here's the problem. You're in a small group of people. The world has ended. Walkers everywhere. You're in a small group of people. You're relying on each other for your lives. You're telling this guy to stay away from your son, your family. They're in a group of maybe 60 to 80, 100 people. Ish, if that big. How's he going to stay away from your family? Especially if he's your husband's best friend. If he stays away from your family after being as close as they were, your husband's going to think things. But she tells him to stay away and calls him a son of a, and goes stalking off. Well, we go back to Rick and the crew in the department store, and I did have that thought. I'm going, how in the hell is he supposed to stay away from you if you're in a small group? He can only stay so far away. What's he going to do? Go over to the other side of camp every time you walk through? Which, that was my question. Then we flash back to Rick and the crew in the department store, and we flash back from Rick and the crew in the department store picking their way through the department store to Andrea sitting there, which I would have been pissed off, as Andrea was. The whole time we've seen Ed while the women are doing laundry, the women are busting their ass doing the laundry in the water, and Ed's sitting on his ass in the background policing them like he's going to guard them, which there's no way he would protect them if anything happened. I get that feeling about him. He's been sitting back there smoking cigarettes, watching the women, making sure Carol's not too happy because he's an ass. Well, Andrea looks at him and goes, well, Ed, if you don't like the way your laundry's done, why don't you do it? Her sister, Andrea, don't do it. Well, Ed goes, that ain't my job, Missy. And Andrea goes, well, what is your job, Ed? Sitting on your ass smoking cigarettes? And he starts into the whole sexist chauvinist bullshit, which I don't believe in. If I were her, flat out, she threw his shirt at him and he threw it back at her. I can't help it. Family is strong women. My family is, my great-grandmother and a lot of my extended family came out from the South and were Irish and Native American. All the women in my family would have thrown his clothes in the dirt and told him to screw himself. And it's not a disrespect thing. It's a screw you, you're not going to talk to me that way thing. But, yeah, I would have thrown his clothes in the dirt. But Andrea starts picking a fight with Ed. Well, Ed turns around and hits Carol. And then Shane kicks his ass. And I'm not a fan of violence, Now, I don't believe in starting the fight. I believe in finishing it. I'm not a fan of violence, but I will defend myself. But in that moment, after seeing Ed hit Carol, I watched Shane kick the shit out of that guy and knock him down in the dirt, and I'm going, get that man a steak. He deserves it for that. And I'm watching Shane, and I'm going, with me being an EMT, I'm sitting there and I'm going, in that situation, if I had to make a choice, if I actually saw that happen right in front of me, the guy, Ed, had just punched Carol, right, or slapped Carol or whatever. Well, Shane went and kicked the shit out of him. If me being an EMT, if I were in that situation, I sat there and I told my husband, you know what I would do after that situation? He goes, what? And I said, I would have gone up to Shane. I would have bandaged his knuckles. And I would have told him, thank you. You probably just saved her life, because she would have let him kick the shit out of her for the rest of her life if he didn't kill her. That's the way guys like Ed are. And I would have let Ed bleed. And he goes, you would have let that happen? Hell yes, I would have. And I told him flat out, I would have taken care of Shane and I would have let Ed bleed. Ed deserved it. But what really irritated me was, I've been in relationships with abusive men in my life. Mentally abusive, emotionally abusive. Could have been physically abusive. I had one that was kind of borderline and wanted to control the shit out of me when I was 18. But I have been with guys that treated me like property, that treated me the way Ed treated Carol when I was young. And my husband to this day gets pissed off because when anything goes wrong, whenever something goes south, I immediately apologize whether I'm at fault or not, and I immediately assume that I'm at fault whether I am or not, and I immediately go default to, I'm sorry. whether I'm at fault or not. And Ed hit Carol in front of everyone, and Jackie was talking about we've seen the bruises. So you know Ed's been kicking the shit out of Carol, and everyone knows it. They just haven't done anything, which sucks. But, after Shane kicked Ed's ass and said, you put your hands to your wife, your little girl, or anyone else at camp, I'll beat you to death, Carol went up to Ed in the dirt and was apologizing to him. And people are going, why would you do that? That's stupid. Guys, when you're with someone that makes you feel like you're nothing, like you're less, like you're their property and they're the end-all be-all, there's gonna be nothing else, you feel like they're it for you and that you're nothing without them. You feel like everything is your fault because they have you convinced of it. You know, so before you go judging them for it, that's just how it is. You know, I've been in that situation. I've felt like property before. I've been with people that treated me the way Ed treated Carol. They didn't kick the shit out of me. One of them was working his way towards it. He wanted to move me away from my family and everything, and he wanted to own me. But, you know, without going into detail, but had every sign of escalating. And thank God I didn't end up being with him. I love my husband to death. My husband's nothing like him, thank God. But, you know, people are real quick to jump to the conclusion, well, Carol should have known better, Carol should have known better. You get used to it because it's all you know, so you know nothing different, so how the hell are you supposed to think something's wrong when that is your normal? Everyone's got their own normal. You know, but at the same time, if I'd been there, it's like bandage Shane's wrists, give him an attaboy, and screw you, Ed. So we go back, and after he kicks the shit out of Ed, which Shane, you the man, we go back to Rick and the crew, and they get up on the roof of the department store. They pick their way through and everything. And we see him freak out on the roof, like, oh my God, like some of them look disgusted, and Daryl starts freaking out and doing the cry face. Don't let Daryl do the cry face. But we're going, oh God, it's got to be bad. He got eaten, didn't he? But then we're going, wait a minute. They had to cut the chain to let themselves out on the roof, right? So it goes off to the side and it shows the hacksaw with blood on it. And it shows the handcuff and a hand on the roof. And I'm going, how desperate would you have to be to cut up? Yeah, it was bad. And then it zooms in at the end on Merle's hand, and Daryl's understandably glaring at T-Dogg, and I know T-Dogg is screwed in the next episode because T-Dogg knows it. You could see in the look on his face, he's watching Daryl, and he goes, he's got that crossbow. But yeah, that's the end of the notes on episode 3. Tell it to the frogs, which Lori said the line, just trivia, Lori said the line. Season 1, episode 3 of The Walking Dead. I really liked this episode. You know, we got to learn more about Merle. We got to meet some characters that we liked, characters that we hated, and I really loved the fact that there were so many human moments. You know, just to show, even with the world going to hell, they can still have those moments of normalcy. They can have those moments where they can sit and forget for 5 minutes at a time. You know, and with everything going to hell, the thing is, I really think we'd appreciate those moments more, which is really sad when you think about the fact that time's passing us by. It's passing you guys by as you're sitting here watching this video. We really need to stop taking them for granted. I mean, how often do we take them for granted when we really shouldn't? But I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode. It's a little bit longer of one. I'm so sorry, but I really wanted to get in depth with this episode and talk to you guys about it. I hope you like the way these are going. If you want me to do them as live streams, watch with me, where I have my headphones on and I don't play the music or play the video or anything on my video. It would just be me watching. But if I do it in a live stream with you guys, it would give you guys a chance to watch it at your place, and then you could write about it, and then I talk about it. That way we could have a conversation going, kind of like with Let's Plays. You know, Let's Plays feel like going to your friend's house, sitting on the couch and hanging out for the afternoon. We could all pop popcorn and get our drinks and everything and sit down to watch the show together and talk about it fan to fan. I thought that might be fun. You know, so I may try to get my computer updated to where I can do that with you guys if you think it would be worth doing. And the cool thing is, if I archive it so it'll play back, then people could watch it back and they'll get scene by scene what my reactions of each part were, and I could talk about it as it goes. But I think that would be an easier way for me to show stuff, like my opinions. So this has been Season 1, Episode 3 of The Walking Dead, Tell It to the Frogs, a review by A.V. Songbird. I hope you guys are liking the way these are going. If you think of a better way I could do these, like I said, I haven't seen anyone else's reviews. I thought about watching them today, but I didn't want them to color my reviews. You know, if you didn't want to see mine, you would be watching other people's. So I wanted to be just me, not me trying to be anyone else. But I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I'm going to let you go because it's 40 minutes long. This has been A.V. Songbird. I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day. Now get out there and seize you some humanizing moments. Bye, guys.